What do we know? We know that Musk has essentially thrown in the towel. He has presented a letter to Twitter and to their team late last night that says effectively he wants to close the deal, wants to get the deal done on the original terms. So that would be $54.20 a share. And, that wraps up what has been a very, very tense, very bitter at times, and as I said at the beginning, fairly drawn-out legal fight.
There were those who thought that this was actually a negotiation rather than a litigation, that he would come in at a somewhat lower price, but he didn't. He came in at full face value. What caused that, do you think? What precipitated it?
I don't know is the honest answer, and I think time will tell, and whether or not there's sort of something that comes out in the next few days that gives us a clear indication of that. I do think we can deduce from just the comments that have been coming out of the Chancery Court in Delaware and certainly some of the sort of optics around the deal in the last few weeks that things were not really going Mr. Musk's way. We've seen, the release of text messages, none of which were particularly favorable to any of his arguments around it being material adverse change here. And so I think it's possible his lawyers have just advised him, look, you don't really have an out. Twitter know you don't have an out. And so you can fight this, but you're not going to win it. And the best thing in that situation is maybe just to sort of bite the bullet and do the deal. And
maybe for Bloomberg, a broader issue here is the Delaware Chancery Court that you mentioned, that judge who really held his feet to the fire, that is Elon Musk's feet to the fire, and what it says about the continued dominance of corporate law in the state of Delaware.
Yeah, and I think, David, that is a really important point for all of us M&A watchers. That was perhaps the most important point of the whole deal and the whole saga around it, was to look, the rule of law in Delaware is obviously hugely important to corporate America and indeed to global corporate stuff. And had Mr. Musk been sort of forced to close, and had he refused to do so or not abided the court order, it could have actually posed serious questions about the rule of law and about the ability of the Delaware courts to enforce. And I think it was very important, therefore, to see that this was, that this was being done properly, that standards were being sort of maintained throughout, and that, they were observing precedent, and they did. And I think, the real winner from this is, in some sense, the Delaware Chancery Court, because they come out of it looking, extremely smart.
Exactly right. That sounds right at this point in the story. Of course, it could develop further. I also wonder about the Twitter board, because they really held Elon Musk to account as well. They went forward, as I recall, with their vote with the shareholders. I think they've already voted to accept this offer. Have they not? Well, the shareholders have, indeed, by a huge margin, I think, have voted to accept the offer. And not surprisingly, if you look at the spread on this deal, it's been substantial throughout. I think the downside is seen as huge, certainly from the offer price, but even from where Twitter is trading today with that spread baked in. And I think, if you look at just some of the potential damage that has been inflicted on Twitter as a brand during the saga because of some of Mr. Musk's pronouncements, because of some of the sort of mud that has been thrown at the company, I think it's understandable that any shareholder in this company is looking at the price on the table and saying, actually, yes, that is something we want to go through with. We don't want this company to go forward as a standalone, because it has been, as I say, a lot of damage has been inflicted on it through this process.